Have you ever wondered why some men begin to feel distant from the very women they once adored? The house is the same. The dinners still happen. The laughter flickers on occasion, but something invisible hangs between them. A kind of quiet discontent. He still loves her, perhaps, yet he doesn't like her anymore. A coffee cup cools between them as he scrolls his phone. She speaks, but his eyes glaze over, not from cruelty, but exhaustion. There's no fight, no explosion, just a slow erosion of warmth. What happened? It's rarely about beauty. It's about energy. When a woman's light, once bright with playfulness and presence, turns heavy with resentment or anxiety, the polarity that drew him begins to collapse. What began as admiration curdles into resistance. The same face, the same voice, but the soul behind it has changed its music. Men are not built to chase emotion. They are built to respect composure. And over time, when emotion replaces essence, when noise replaces grace, something ancient in a man recoils. Silence is not apathy. It's the sound of lost admiration. In every long partnership, there comes a moment when the mirror turns. The man begins to see not the woman he chose, but the reflection of his own unspoken fatigue. Her complaints echo his failures. Her criticism feeds his shame. And what he resents in her is often the part of himself he's too proud to confront. A phone screen lights his face in the dark, a message unsent, a sigh withheld. Jung would have called it projection. The unconscious act of placing one's denied weaknesses onto another. He once admired her empathy because it soothed his guardedness. Now he despises it, calling it emotional need. Attraction dies when the shadow goes unacknowledged. The first thing almost no one dares to name is this. A man begins to dislike his partner, not because she's aged, but because he has not grown. She evolves emotionally. He remains trapped in linear thinking. Her sensitivity deepens, but to him, it feels chaotic. He wanted a companion to share life with, not a mirror to reveal his stagnation. Modern psychology calls this the ego threat. Stoicism calls it the test of reason over passion. When a man meets emotional intensity, his instinct is to withdraw or control it. Yet both are failures of discipline. The Stoic move is not withdrawal, it's witnessing. To remain unmoved doesn't mean to be unfeeling. It means to see the emotion without becoming it. He must learn to hold space for her chaos without making it his prison. He must stand firm, not against her, but within himself. A faint hum fills the night. She's asleep on one side. He stares at the ceiling, rehearsing 1,000 silent arguments. He could say, "You've changed." But the truth is simpler. She adapted to what he became. When a man stops leading himself, his partner stops following his energy. Worse than that, a second pattern quietly erodes boundaries, the habit of subtle contempt. It begins with sighs, sarcasm, small mockeries disguised as humor. Each moment chips away at admiration until the relationship becomes a courtroom. Love cannot live in a courtroom. It gasps for air in its own defense. Why does contempt grow so easily? Because both partners forget reverence. Stoicism teaches that reverence, respect for order, for silence, for gratitude, is the foundation of harmony. But modern relationships confuse honesty with indulgence. They say everything they feel, and in doing so, drown respect in confession. The Stoic man restrains speech, not to suppress emotion, but to preserve gravity. He does not argue to win. He speaks to clarify. His restraint is not coldness, it's architecture. Every word builds or breaks the structure of peace. Words are sacred. Once spoken carelessly, they corrode the soul of love. When silence becomes discipline, The third principle surfaces. Distance reveals truth. If the bond is real, space strengthens it. If it's built on dependency, space exposes its hollowness. Many men fear this silence because it feels like loss. But in truth, it's renewal. He walks outside, air sharp against his skin. No messages, no explanations, just quiet. He doesn't ignore her. He recalibrates himself. This act, the simple refusal to react, is the moment where disliking turns into discernment. Because beneath every fading affection lies a deeper choice. Do you wish to possess or to understand? Dislike is often misnamed clarity. It's the death of illusion. Hold your response. The next shift turns apology into leverage. He begins to notice the tone before the words, the way she sighs before speaking, the small edge in her questions. It's not what she says, it's what she means. The air thickens with unspoken scorekeeping. Every kindness now carries a hidden invoice. A dim lamp, a reflection on glass, two figures sharing silence that used to be warmth. He glances at her and sees not a woman, but the ghost of their earlier ease. Something in him stiffens. He feels judged, misunderstood, pinned to a version of himself he no longer recognizes. Affection dies the moment respect is replaced by management. The mechanism underneath is subtle, yet brutal. Emotional bookkeeping. Both partners begin to track who gives more, who tries harder, who owes whom. But love, when reduced to arithmetic, loses its spirit. A woman who keeps score starts radiating control instead of presence. A man sensing that control will either resist or retreat, never yield freely. In Jungian terms, this is the anima and animus in combat. Her inner masculine wants order. His wounded feminine seeks validation. They no longer dance, they debate. Every gesture becomes a negotiation of worth. A Stoic would see this not as malice, but as ignorance of self. Seneca once wrote that, "To be ruled by anger is to be enslaved by another's weakness." Modern men confuse this enslavement for patience. They stay quiet, thinking silence is strength. But silence without clarity is rot. It festers into resentment. He sits in the car, engine off, scrolling nowhere. He's not angry, he's emptied. The conversation that awaits inside feels like a trial he's already lost. The truth is, he doesn't dislike her. He dislikes who he becomes around her. When a man feels unseen, he stops seeing. The Stoic move here is detachment, not disappearance. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means freedom from reaction. The disciplined man doesn't mirror her tension. He doesn't compete in emotional intensity. He becomes a still surface, reflecting her storm without losing his sky. To practice this requires boundaries that are both external and internal. External boundaries, when to walk away from escalation. Internal boundaries, when to stop rehearsing invisible arguments in his mind. Because the real corrosion happens there, in the private dialogue, where pride and fear duel endlessly. A faint breeze moves the curtain. The night softens. He breathes, once, deeply. He recalls the Stoic law: control only what depends on you. Her tone, her moods, her interpretations, none of these belong to him. What belongs to him is his conduct, his composure, his capacity to hold truth without panic. You cannot respect a man who worships your emotions. Worse than that, a fourth truth cuts deeper still. Desire itself mutates when polarity collapses. Men are visual, yes, but attraction for them is rooted in a woman's self-command. When that disappears, admiration fades. The tragedy isn't physical aging, it's energetic decay. She used to move with ease. Her laughter wasn't performance, it was melody. Now every action seems calculated, defensive, over-explained. He doesn't crave youth, he craves spontaneity. But she's forgotten play, replacing curiosity with caution. And he, in turn, becomes the mirror of that fear. His humor dims, his initiative wanes. He finds solace in abstraction, work, screens, routine. What he calls focus is often quiet avoidance. Desire dies when play turns into performance. The Stoic correction is simplicity. Don't argue, don't dramatize, don't over-justify, simplify. When the relationship begins to suffocate under analysis, the cure is not discussion, but example. He must return to order, to action, to silent mastery. A man at peace with himself reawakens attraction, not through charm, but through gravity. He doesn't fix her mood, he stabilizes his presence. He stops explaining his worth. He acts with dignity and lets the air clear itself. In that stillness, something ancient reemerges: respect. The quiet respect of a woman who feels safe, not because he pleases her, but because he governs himself. A door closes softly. She lingers at the edge of the room, watching him work. No words, just an awareness that something solid has returned to the space. She can no longer provoke his chaos because he no longer hides from it. Strength isn't domination, it's containment of chaos without losing warmth. Deeper still, a fifth truth waits in the silence between them, the most difficult of all. It is this: no one dislikes another without first disliking themselves. Every irritation reveals an unmet standard within. When a man says, "She's changed," what he means is, "I've outgrown my illusion." And when a woman senses that shift, she feels the tremor of mortality in love itself. The image she built begins to crack. What she mistook for security was simply familiarity. He looks at her now, not with anger, but with a new kind of clarity, one born from relinquishment. He sees her flaws and his own reflected perfectly. No blame, no story, just the truth standing between them, silent and clean. Acceptance ends the war. Resistance feeds it. Do not rush. The following move separates passivity from discipline. Morning light cuts across the floorboards. She moves quietly through the kitchen, the rhythm of habit guiding her hands. He watches, half absent, sensing the strange familiarity of a stranger. There is no hatred here, only the residue of things left unsaid. The air hums with the memory of who they were. Every marriage, every bond, reaches this threshold, the moment where comfort turns into invisibility. What once drew him in now passes unnoticed. Her words no longer pierce. His silence no longer protects. When attention dies, affection follows soon after. The underlying mechanism now is not conflict, but numbness, emotional fatigue. Both partners have become symbols of their own defense systems. She guards against neglect by over-communicating. He guards against pressure by detaching. Two fortresses facing one another across a quiet valley, flags motionless in the wind. In modern psychology, this is called emotional withdrawal, but the Stoics would name it something older: the decay of logos. Reasons silenced by routine. When the daily repetition of tasks replaces inner dialogue, meaning dissolves. A phone alarm hums, a quick smile, automatic. They exchange plans for the day. Everything works, except the feeling. Function without spirit is the slowest form of death. The Stoic path offers a reversal, but not the one most imagined. It isn't about rekindling passion through effort. It's about rediscovering truth through presence. He must look without judgment, speak without performance, act without vanity. The same applies to her. Both must strip away what they've become accustomed to pretending. To dislike one's partner is to dislike one's own reflection in domestic life. Every irritation is a message. Something in you seeks growth, but comfort resists it. What he despises in her neediness mirrors his own avoidance. What she resents in his detachment mirrors her dependency. In Jungian terms, they are living as projections of unintegrated selves. The union that once healed has now become the teacher that wounds, but in that wound lies a map, if they have the courage to read it. Every disappointment in love is an invitation to grow in consciousness. So what, then, is the Stoic move? It is not to escape, but to see clearly without flinching, to observe the entire dynamic as nature itself, growth, decay, adaptation. He stops demanding that she remain who she was. She stops resenting who he has become. Between them, a neutral space opens, the only place where new respect can breathe. He begins to practice restraint differently now, not silence born of fear, but silence charged with awareness. When she complains, he listens without correction. When he grows distant, she waits without accusation. Gradually, both stop reacting and begin witnessing. A faint sunlight warms the countertop. Her voice softens for the first time in weeks. The energy shifts, not because of grand gestures, but because the atmosphere no longer suffocates under judgment. Love revives not through intensity, but through order restored. Here, aging is no longer an enemy. It becomes the sculptor. Years carve away vanity, leaving the essence of character. The man who once sought admiration now craves peace. The woman who once needed assurance now seeks truth. Beneath the ashes of disappointment, a more honest connection flickers, less romantic, more sacred. Still, some unions end here. They part not from bitterness, but completion. The Stoic accepts that nature demands cycles, blooming, fading, renewal. To cling is to suffer. To release is to honor the form that love once took. He packs quietly. No shouting, no slammed doors. She watches with tears, not rage. They both know that something real has ended, but also that nothing was wasted. Every phase served its lesson. Not every love is meant to last, but every love is meant to teach. Yet for those who stay, transformation begins. Dislike turns to respect. The man learns that admiration cannot survive without self-respect. The woman learns that nurturing cannot bloom without boundaries. Together, they stop performing romance and begin practicing awareness. No longer two halves seeking validation, they become two wholes sharing calm. A quiet evening. She reads by lamplight. He writes in stillness. No approval needed, no fear of loss. Just the simplicity of two lives aligned by discipline, not desire. And in that stillness, something beautiful returns. Not the thrill of youth, but the dignity of presence. The highest form of love is composure in truth, because in the end, dislike was never the problem. It was the doorway. It revealed where illusion hid, where expectation clung, where ego resisted humility. And once those fragments fall away, what remains is peace, calm, unspectacular, enduring. He looks at her one last time, not to compare her to who she was, but to recognize who she is. Time has traced its lines upon her face, but within those lines, he sees depth, endurance, and quiet strength. For the first time in years, he feels something ancient stir, not lust, not pride, but reverence.